Ryo and Amon that the class introduction had already concluded. He also points out that the last 5 have learned the basics of dungeon exploration and that this afternoon they will enter the first level of a real dungeon. Amon shows his nervousness upon hearing this, but Ryo reminds him that there is still plenty of time before then, and if he gets too tense, he will be exhausted by the time they finally reach the dungeon. The professor says he'll answer any questions before they leave, and Ryo takes the opportunity to raise his hand, wanting to know if there's a way to travel to a level he's already visited. Upon hearing this, the instructor is quite surprised he knows such a thing, explaining that to his knowledge there are dungeons in the south possessing those characteristics. However, it's not possible within the Loon dungeon, and thus he regrets not being able to further assist, having only heard tales of them. Ryo thanks him for the information, while Amon tells him it's amazing he knows something like that, and that it's no wonder he's D rank. Smiling at what was said, Ryo simply remarked that he learned about it because the little bird told him. When the novices are heading to the dungeon, the instructor informs them that the Loon dungeon is centrally located within the city. However, it's more accurate to say that the city itself was built up around the dungeon. And, as he had explained previously, every few years the number of monsters in the dungeon multiplies, a phenomenon known as the Great Tide. In many cases, monsters come to the surface and these double walls were built to prevent them from reaching the city. Upon hearing this, Ryo gains a clearer understanding. The outer walls serve to shield them from external incursions, while the inner walls are designed to contain the monsters within the dungeon itself. The instructor reiterates that this phenomenon occurs every few years, and since it will be happening again anytime soon, there's absolutely no need for them to worry. Following that, he directs them to the guild office, located right beside the dungeon's entrance. When entering, adventurers are typically required to register their name and entry time. However, as they've just enrolled in the introductory course today, this step is waived for them on this particular occasion. As they go down the stairs, Ryo tells Amon he should relax a bit and has him take a deep breath to release some of the tension from his body. Once inside, the instructor reminds them the first level has no dangerous monsters, and though they can explore it, he doesn't want them straying far from the entrance. After walking a short distance in one direction, Ryo warns Amon that there's a monster ahead, so he plans to immobilize it so Amon can finish it off. Amon agrees to his instructions and draws his sword. A few seconds later, Ryo identifies the monster as a soldier ant, something typically for beginners. The moment the monster draws a bit closer, Ryo feigns casting a spell to unleash Icicle Lance, embedding ice stakes into all its limbs, rendering it utterly defenseless. With that done, Amon quickly moves in to strike its neck, knowing that's its weak spot thanks to the information Ryo gave him. Ryo tells him they're taking its magic stone. They can't leave without their first trophy. Amon sees it and gets excited too. That very night, the two meet up with Niels and Etu. They were celebrating the end of the introductory course, and on top of that, Ryo and Amon's first dungeon. Etu exclaims it's incredible they defeated a soldier ant with such ease, and though Amon attempts to credit Ryo, he reassures them everything went well because Amon knew precisely how to land the perfect blow with his sword. After this, Etu asks where they plan to go tomorrow, to which Amon replies that he'd like to go back to the dungeon, but he's not sure because he's worried about going alone. So Ryo offers to accompany him once more, as he was planning to reach the 3rd level, and Amon joyfully accepts this proposition. Here, Ryo admits he was surprised to see the ant on the 1st level, since the professor told them it wasn't normal. Niels agrees with him on that, this being due to the fact that on the 1st level there are usually only bats. Etu recounts how, in recent months, he's heard soldier ants appearing on the first 2 levels, which truly piques Ryo's curiosity. Then, quite unexpectedly, someone explains that this occurs because the ants dig tunnels all the way up to the 1st level. Ryo tells this person who is able that a veteran adventurer shouldn't be bothering novices. Meanwhile, his roommates are left in absolute shock by this very unexpected visit. Ignoring his comment, Abel introduces himself to the others and asks them to take good care of Ryo. At this point, the others are just recovering from seeing him in person. It's like seeing Michael Jackson resurrected, as they immediately recognize him as Abel of the Crimson Blade. Niels, on the other hand, introduces himself very energetically as an F rank who has just arrived at Loon, also stating that he is his hero. After shaking hands, Ryo inquires why he's still at the guild so late. Abel explains that the quest they took consumed more time than they'd expected, so they've only just made it back. Right after that, the rest of his group arrives and chastises him for sneaking off when they're supposed to be meeting the guild master. Abel tries to explain that he intended to mentor the new batch of adventurers, but Lin disregards his excuses and has Warren haul him off like a sack of potatoes. Unable to flee, Abel pleads with Ryo to say something, but Lin suddenly approaches him, staring intently. Regia makes her stop and apologizes to the boy. since they have to take Abel to an urgent meeting with Hugh. Ryo tells them he understands. After all, Abel is the great leader of the Crimson Blade, which makes Abel call him a traitorous dog. Once they leave, Etu mentions that Rigia is a total angel, while Niels thinks Abel is an incredible guy. As soon as he hears that, Ryo asks him if he thinks. Despite what she just witnessed, Rigia tells Lin not to look at him that way, but Lin explains it's perfectly normal to be interested, given he's supposedly a great wizard. Abel reassures them not to worry, as they will very soon witness his full capabilities, but as he's still being carried by Warren, Lin questions if he's merely trying to act cool, which doesn't amuse him much. The next day, Ryo accompanies an excited Amon to the dungeon, and once inside, they start to work as a team to defeat some monsters. Ryo focuses on attacking the stragglers, and when Amon is ambushed by one of them, he makes sure to protect him with his quick reflexes. After that, they take a brief break, and Ryo tells him that his sword-wielding technique reminds him of Abel's, which makes him suppose his master was a former adventurer from the village. Amon confirms that this is indeed the case, and his master is a man named Kiro. He learned to wield a sword at a school in the royal capital, utilizing a renowned style known as Hume, or something similar, so his unique fighting style originates from that very academy. Aware of this, Ryo thinks that once he has mastered the fundamentals, he will surely be incredible, just like Abel. Amon notes that despite being a mage, Ryo wields a sword well. Ryo explains it's because he had a master who trained with him long ago, but as his style is original, he can't fully claim mastery. He then asks if Amon has rested, to which Amon replies yes, jumping up quickly, but Ryo clarifies that he shouldn't push himself, as his fighting style is quite exhausting. Despite that, he knows that once perfected, that style will protect him from harm, but he needs to build up his stamina, so he recommends running as much as he can. He also says that if he's consistent, he'll improve little by little. And since he traveled with Abel for a while, he noticed that the first thing he did every morning was train. That means even with all that talent, even geniuses understand they must train. It's pure Mamba mentality on this channel, folks. Amon gets quite enthusiastic hearing that, and so he commits himself to training as diligently as Abel does. On a new day, Ryo tells Niels he has other plans and won't go to the dungeon. The first place he visits is the library, where the librarian asks if this is his first time here. Ryo says yes, he didn't expect it to be so big. A little later, she shows him a special section, saying that if he doesn't know anything about alchemy, it's best to start here. Here, Ryo looks through the books and sees a guide to the fundamentals and a recipe book, but with so much to learn, he doesn't know where to begin. Later, he arrives at the plaza and thinks that if he wants to take this seriously, he should buy his own books. That makes him wonder how much each one costs. As he's thinking, a solar eclipse suddenly occurs, casting a darkness over the entire city. Ryo quickly becomes aware of a strange sensation, alarming him as he attempts to look all around, coming to believe that the entire world now seems different to him. Suddenly, a powerful attack is fired in his direction, so he protects himself by putting up an ice wall in front of him. Despite that, he struggles quite a bit to mitigate the fire blast, given its immense power. And as the attack concludes, he spots a figure slowly advancing toward him from afar. This woman finds it interesting that a human is here, but she dismisses it, confident she can eliminate him. Judging by her intensity, Ryo assumes she's a demon, which he knows isn't good, as she's on the level of a griffin. This makes him consider running away. Even so, he doesn't believe he can escape this peculiar space, which appears to be a world entirely distinct from the actual one. Having no other option, he decides to reinforce the ice wall with mana, hoping it will shield him from her next magic attack. Yet, as he does so, he quickly realizes it's insufficient, pushing him to exert every ounce of effort just to survive. And while he's busy with that, she takes the opportunity to shoot a wind attack directly at his body. The instant he is struck, she is taken aback by what just transpired, as it yielded no result. She then admits it's amazing that he defended against Hellfire and also nullified her wind lance. Taking a closer look, she notices his outfit belongs to the Fairy King. Now understanding things better, she decides to kill him the hard way. From that point forward, the two engage in close quarters combat with their swords, where she remarks that he is quite slow. Ryo endures her onslaught as best he can, and shortly thereafter, he conjures a large volley of icicle lances to unleash in her direction. However, she effortlessly evades every single projectile as if they were inconsequential. This catches him by surprise, and he starts to think she's using wind magic to move faster. He also understands they both employ swift attacks, and by merely defending, she shouldn't be able to hit him. He's absolutely certain, as her blows are insignificant compared to his master's. She then mentions that his sword belongs to the Fairy King as well, so she demands to know who on earth he is. However, without awaiting a response, she forms a fireball in her hand, but Ryo swiftly neutralizes it with an icicle lance almost immediately. This makes her question how he manages to cast spells with such speed, causing her to view him as a formidable monster. Given his dangerous nature, she remains fully intent on killing him. The close quarters fight resumes, with both maintaining an incredibly intense exchange of attacks. Ryo seizes an opportunity to bombard her with his icicle lance, but she quickly shields herself with a formidable firewall. Realizing Ryo's attacks are growing more devastating, she stomps hard on the ground, causing stone walls to rise up, protecting her from any incoming projectiles. Some of the sharp attacks get through to her, but Ryo doesn't wait. He lunges forward to attack her head-on, and the demon does the same. As their swords clash, she notices his wounds are healing quite fast, and that distraction allows her to violently throw him against a building. Just as she is about to unleash another fireball, her attention is diverted. It begins to rain exactly at that moment, perhaps Ryo's doing. When the very first raindrop is about to strike her, she experiences a rather powerful burn on her skin, now being scorched all over by the continuous cascade of falling drops. Unwilling to be harmed further, she forms a stone shield for protection, only to erupt from it in a powerful explosion moments later. As the eclipse is concluding, she informs him that her time is running out, and she can't recall the last time she truly relished a combat this intensely. And although she'd like to keep fighting, this isolation was special because she had little control over it. Ryo doesn't know what she means by isolation. It's then that she introduces herself as Leonor Uraka Albuquerque, and Ryo tells her his name too, even calling her Akuma. This catches Leonor's attention because she knows of their existence. It makes her think she really should have killed him by any means possible, though she also accepts that an enemy like him wouldn't fall quickly. After that, she says goodbye and makes it clear that, whether he likes it or not, they'll meet again simply because of the power he possesses. He's destined to meet her or one of her kind. Finally, she asks him not to let anyone else kill him, because his life belongs to her, promising she'll be much stronger next time. After she disappears along with the eclipse, Ryo is glad he's wearing this outfit. Otherwise, he'd have a hole right through his shoulder by now. Then he gets sidetracked by wanting to purchase books, and despite his earlier worries about money, he later checks his account, only to discover he had a lot of money, completely unaware of the true value of the Wyvern's magic stones. Shrugging it off, he's just happy he doesn't have to worry about money. Once he gets to his room, he finds it strange that no one is there yet. But when he glances out the window, he notices something worrying. It turns out that Niels, Eto, and Amon are suffering from wounds, having been ambushed by some other adventurers who also live in the guild. One of them reminds everyone that dungeon monsters don't give warnings before they attack, and upon arrival Ryo agrees, but also points out that lowering one's guard is quite risky. In a matter of seconds, he knocks out his opponents with a single magic attack. Following that, Niels alerts him that the only one remaining on his feet is Dan, from room number 1. Hearing that, Ryo asks if he's going to flee now that he doesn't have his little friends, but he stands his ground and tries to punch him. In response to that, Ryo simply moves away from Dan's punch with minimal effort, then swiftly strikes him in the stomach with the pommel of his sword. This causes Dan to throw up what he ate yesterday and fall to the ground gasping for air. With the matter settled, Ryo heals the other's wounds, but since he's also exhausted, he has Eto heal his damage too, while the 4 of them are in some hot springs. As he does, Eto points out that while the blow didn't break any bones, it must have been a very powerful attack, and would have been fatal if it had hit his heart. Ryo clarifies that it was actually aimed at his heart, but he managed to dodge it at the last second. Leaving that aside, Ryo focuses on what's important. There are more like Leonor, and he also needs to investigate that strange space he was trapped in. But anyway, that's it for episode 4.